Hey guys, welcome back. The Harry Potter books were life-changing to many of us, and the films, for the most part, did an amazing job of transferring the books to movie form. However, in transitioning, there were a number of things that had to be altered or left out completely. While many of them were understandable and somewhat unnoticeable, others were straight up heartbreaking. And make sure to let me know in the comments what aspect of the books you miss most in the movies. I'm Ron Mackenzie LaFergie with Top 10 Nerd, and here are the top 10 differences between the Harry Potter books and the movies. Number 10. Nearly Headless Nick's Death Day Party. In the book version of the Chamber of Secrets, Harry, Ron, and Hermione were invited to Nearly Headless Nick's Death Day Party, celebrating the 500th anniversary of Nick's death. They were too polite to say no, so they were forced to attend a nasty party with rotten fish, maggoty haggis, and moldy cheese. Then, Nicholas once again refused entry to the Headless Hunt due to his stubborn head that just wouldn't fall off. This is one scene that I totally understand leaving out. It'd be nice to see because we get to see another side of Nick, but it would probably be 5 or 10 minutes of screen time that really doesn't have to be there. But when I get rich and do my line-for-line version of Harry Potter, this scene will definitely be in it. Number 9. Professor Binns. Professor Binns is a history of magic professor at Hogwarts throughout the books. While we sadly don't see him in the film, he's described as an ancient and shriveled man looking at times like an old tortoise and wore thick glasses. I kind of picture him as an older, ghostlier Richard Dawkins. Even though he was possibly the most boring character in the books, his class was the setting for a number of important and pretty hilarious scenes. Always the dry professor, he only goes off book once when his students beg him to talk about the Chamber of Secrets, and eventually everyone ends up dropping his class because it's just so dull. I kinda miss him in the movies, but I get why they would take him out. Number 8. Winky. Winky was introduced in Goblet of Fire as the house elf for the Crouch family. Yeah, in a previous video I said the Malfoys for some reason, but that's wrong. Winky is a female elf who was forcefully freed against her will after being blamed for the events of the Quidditch World Cup. Sadly, she was completely left out of the movie, which had a bunch of implications. Hermione was never introduced to elf rights, we didn't really get to see much of Dobby, and worst of all, we didn't get to see Winky led by Kreacher in the battle for Hogwarts. I was actually surprised that Winky was left out of the film, especially since she was a pretty big part of the Crouch storyline, but I'm sure the filmmakers had their reasons. Number 7. The Potion Puzzle in Philosopher's Stone. In the Philosopher's Stone book, the third problem the children must get past, not counting the already defeated troll, is a potion puzzle. Here, Hermione must solve a riddle to determine which potions she and Harry must take in order to proceed. She chooses correctly, allowing her to go back and help Ron while Harry proceeds to the final chamber. Sadly, this scene was left right out of the movie. This was kind of a bummer because it was a real chance for Hermione to prove herself and really gave her a chance to show great cunning and bravery. While I understand that they needed to get the screen time down, especially in the early movies which were more aimed at kids, it was pretty disappointing to miss out on the puzzle that had me tearing my hair out as a youngster. Number 6. Learning wordless magic. In the books, we see the kids struggling with learning how to perform magic without saying words. It's meant to be a difficult thing that takes time to perfect, but in the movies they kinda just started using it pretty early on without any real explanation. Presumably this is because they started having big battle scenes before they learned about nonverbal magic, and the scenes would just be horrible to watch if there were constantly a dozen people yelling a bunch of spells. But it would have been nice to see them learn about it early on because it's hard to ignore the inconsistency of it. Number 5. The Hogwarts battle in Half-Blood Prince. Holy cow, I almost forgot about this. I must have blocked it from my mind. In the books, when the Death Eaters attack Hogwarts to kill Dumbledore, there's an insane battle with the Hogwarts faculty, Dumbledore's army, and the Order of the Phoenix fighting against a group of Death Eaters. It would have been a really cool fight, but it was removed because they didn't want it to be too similar to the battle in the 7th book. It's a fair point, but they needed to at least show something, because the way they did it in the film, it looks like the Death Eaters just got there, killed Dumbledore with pretty much no resistance, and left. This was probably the thing that bugged me most about the 6th film. It could have been just a short fight scene just to show that there was some defense against the Death Eaters, but nope, turns out it's super easy to get into Hogwarts. Number 4. Dudley redeemed. Let's face it, Dudley was a jerk, but to be honest, if I grew up with parents like Vernon and Petunia, I probably wouldn't be the nicest guy either. In the books, we get to see a nice transition in Dudley's character after Harry saves him from the Dementors in the 5th book. He leaves food for Harry and seems to come around and see the error in his ways. Sadly, in the films, this was almost entirely cut out. There was one deleted scene where they have a reconciliatory moment, but it wasn't enough. Which kinda sucks, because it's a really impressive story of someone who makes an effort to step away from their lousy upbringing and becomes a decent guy. Number 3. Neville the Chosen One. If you've read the books, you'll be aware that the prophecy was somewhat vague, and the circumstances that surrounded the Chosen One actually applied to to one other wizard aside from Harry, Neville Longbottom. He was also born on the 7th month, and his parents had also thrice defied Voldemort. It was a really interesting little addition that kept me guessing until the very end. While my gut wanted Harry to be the chosen one, there was always that doubt in the back of my mind. In the movies, they left this bit out, probably to avoid confusion, but I would have loved to see this bit in the film. That said, Neville certainly got to redeem himself in later movies, so at least they kept that much in. Number 2. The death of WORMTAIL. This one is tough because I get why it was cut, but it was such a significant moment. In the books, WORMTAIL is attacking Harry when he's reminded of the blood debt he owes Harry, and he pauses his assault. In this moment, the curse Voldemort had put on the hand he gave WORMTAIL kicked in since its user had disobeyed Voldemort, and it strangles Pettigrew to death. I get this may not be a particularly child-friendly end, but it was so huge, and it explains why Dumbledore made such a big thing about blood debts when Harry let Pettigrew escape. I wish it was in the movies. It was nice to see him knocked out by Dobby and everything, but I definitely prefer the book version on this one. Number 1. Peeves. This was the big one that most Harry Potter fans missed when watching the movies. Peeves is the mischievous poltergeist at Hogwarts, spreading trouble wherever he went. Really reporting only to the Bloody Baron, Peeves was a great source of comic relief and actually had a decent amount of character development. In later books, he often helped out on the side of the students, even saluting Fred and George and helping them with their troublemaking. He even helped out at the Battle of Hogwarts, showing that although he likes to mess with the school, he does care about it enough to defend it. I wish Peeves was in the movies. There'd be funny situations without having to shoehorn jokes into the story. We wouldn't have to have Ron being a total idiot. That's it for now. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, feel free to throw me a thumbs up down below and subscribe to Top 10 Nerd for more videos. Hit me up in the comments and let me know what moment you'd most like to see on film. If you haven't read the books and don't have time to read them, I'd highly suggest listening to the audiobooks done by Stephen Fry. I listen to them pretty much every year and they're just great. Until next time, I'm Ron Mackenzie LaFergie with Top 10 Nerd. Later, nerds.